Perfect. Okay, so, we have a mission. It's that we're dedicated to the growth of businesses which already are in green industries, and to try to help them grow their markets, basically. And then the second hat is probably, well, we could have both of these hats on today. Oh, you just put it here? Okay. It's to help companies become more green, primarily in probably the area of energy, but we recognize that there are a lot of vendors in the private sector out there doing audits, et cetera, so that's not our role. Our role is really education, and we've had all kinds of questions come in, like I'm about to do a building, what do I need to be aware of, or if I'm going to get an auditor, what should I be thinking about, or what the heck should I do? And then Gonzalo Manchego is our primary consultant in the Center for Green Industries. Brent Rondon is also with us today. Brent is in charge of the area that he helps the green people, green companies, try to expand their markets overseas. That's one of the hats that he wears. Also, Brent works a lot with our immigrant entrepreneurs, and as they go into business, he always makes sure they're aware of green principles, in both the operations side and also how to build it into their marketing, et cetera. So that's primarily what we do. We have another slide. We've had workshops. We do 3 or 4 workshops today, or with the Green Building Alliance, and we're very excited that they've invited us back today. I noticed we have a few less people today. It's a bit more of a technical topic. Isn't that always true? When it's a bit more of a technical topic, less people kind of fill the room. I mean, the room was filled with standing room only when we talked about forming a green team and where do you find financing and marketing. We thought we'd get it a bit more technical with some of the principles that Gonzalo learned when he was in the, not that he didn't know them already, I guess we could say skills he refined when he took the Certified Energy Management Training certification program from the Association of Energy Engineers. We did that last November. We're going to be doing it again. But we really wanted to take a lot of those principles. So there are some technical things here, but a lot of the super technical stuff that he said made the test somewhat hard, that's not in the session today. So we educate both and try to do the more technical and the more general topics. And we have the consulting program. We have some really neat guides and manuals on our website. We try to be green. We're not really big on printed material, but we've got a great guide called Operating a Sustainable Small Business. We've got another one on building the greenness of, how to build the greenness of your company into your marketing. And another one on funding. Really neat little guide on sustainable restaurants. And we had a really neat program. I've never been to a program where there was really more energy and lots of discussion, people voting not to take 2 breaks when we did our program a few months ago for sustainable restaurant operation. So that's a bit of an example. And we also have a sustainability planning assessment guide on our website. Gonzalo's going to say a few more words at the end of his presentation about the next generation of our next scheduled offering of the AEE program, which is the Certified Energy Management Program. So I would just like to introduce Gonzalo now. Gonzalo, we've had the good fortune of having Gonzalo at the center since, was it 2000 or 2001, Gonzalo? We had another program we still have it, called the Center for International Regulatory Assistance, and that program needed an engineer. And fortunately, Gonzalo had a chemical engineering background, could read all those prints that someone telling people how to get their product with the correct regulations to export to Europe. Somebody needed to see some of the prints and taught technical terms to the manufacturing companies. So Gonzalo actually, while getting his MBA degree, worked for us as a graduate assistant and fortunately stayed on with us. And he wears several hats at Duquesne as well. In fact, he's winning an award tonight called the Inclusion Award up on the Hill. He's done an excellent job consulting with businesses. There was a business planning competition in the Hill. They're announcing the winners tonight. although people know who the winners are. We know that 2 of them were Gonzalo's clients, and 3 of the next level down winners were also his clients. So he does a great job consulting in the general small business consulting area, and he's also consulting in our green program with the greening your operations topics. And Gonzalo, I said, you got to take that CEM class that's coming through last November, and he passed, and so he's now an official certified energy manager as well with the Association for Energy Engineers. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Gonzalo, who is going to be our speaker today. I guess the name of our program is something like being more efficient with the energy in your building. I see we don't have the topic listed up here. I think you're supposed to click that on, Gonzalo.
Okay, well, can you hear me as well in the back? Yep, okay. I can put it here? Okay. Probably, which forward? This one? Forward. Okay. I don't know. Fine. Hello, hello. Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me today in this training. My name is Gonzalo Manchego. I am the business consultant for the Green Center. And today is kind of a challenge for me because we don't have too much time to talk about a number of topics related to energy efficiency. Also, maybe the level of knowledge of each one on this topic is different. So I really don't know. Means I have to be tailor this. I have to tailor this presentation to a level that's not that sophisticated, not that simple. In addition to that, we mostly do educational services. I'm not necessarily an expert on all these topics. However, Dr. McKinney asked me, why don't you present something on energy efficiency that will lead us and our attendees to understand better what the CEM certification is about. So I tailor this training trying to meet these goals. And if for whatever reason some of you have more expertise on certain fields that I have, please feel free of jumping in and add to the topic. So the purpose today is just to introduce you to certain topics, to show you some resources, some tools, some concepts that will help you to understand better the field of energy efficiency. So let's start. We're going to talk first about energy efficiency, why it's important. And sometimes, just to warm you up, we have some facts that we discuss in the office and say, okay, that would be nice for us to present. And for instance, this is about how important it means that consumer electronics, a small appliance, will be in terms of electricity consumption. So there is another fact here that the total electricity consumed by idle electronics equals to the annual output of 12 power plants. So that's why it's important to conserve energy, to minimize the use of energy. There is a quick quiz. I will ask the group to try to determine which the answer for this question is. Do you think that a car means a car consumes more energy in a year than a home? What do you think? I do have the answer, by the way, on the calculations. Any volunteers? Home? Any say car? No? Home? Okay. If you say home, you're right. I am asking about energy. Okay, I'm not talking about electricity, right? It's just energy. And I am making this point because, first of all, you need to understand the BTUs are the units in which energy is measured. Okay, and the definition of BTUs are there, and also some conversions. A gallon of gasoline is 124,000 BTUs. a kilowatt hour that comes from electricity, right, is equal to 3,412 BTUs, and so on. So the energy used in a year for a car is 66 million BTUs. The electrical energy, not all the energy, the electrical energy is 41 million BTU. So from this, you could say, well, maybe the car consumes more energy, okay, 66 million versus 41 million. But don't forget that in order to produce electrical energy, we have to burn coal or gas, okay? So if we account for that, a house consumes 130 million BTUs, okay? So the concept is, in order to produce electricity, we also need to use one of these primary sources of energy. That could be carbon, could be coal, sorry, could be gas. That's why a house consumes in a year 130 million BTUs versus 66 million in a car. Yes?
That's not a fair comparison. You're not factoring in
to
the
cars.
energy cost to make gasoline.
Well, that might be, that's a good point.
That's a huge unit. So you can't do the comparison. You can do the 66 to the 41, but if you're going to throw in what it takes to generate electricity, throw in what generates the gasoline.
You are partially, means you have a point on that. I will concede that. But it's also it makes us to realize how much energy we spent. 66 million BTU versus 41 million or 130 million BTUs. So we should be aware that that drives us to consume 40 quadrillion BTUs of primary energy for electricity production. Okay. Now, in terms of the agenda for today, we were going to talk about energy efficiency. How important is that? And sometimes we just talk about energy efficiency as an isolated topic. But I brought the topic of sustainability because sustainability is about the capacity to endure, to develop in a form that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So when we talk about sustainability, we are talking about three aspects. Economic aspects, societal aspects, and environmental aspects. It's no longer, in the business, we no longer think only about the financial result. Our actions have an impact on the society and the environment. In the past, they were called the externalities of the financial analysis. Now we are incorporating these externalities into our analysis, and energy efficiency is also involved in this. How? Because at the end of the day, humans have an impact on the environment. And this impact is through the use of resources such as food, materials, water, and energy. So we have four main ways in which the humans impact on the environment, energy being one. So for instance, in terms of food, feeding more than 7 billion human bodies takes a heavy toll on the Earth's resources. In the past, this was the per capita consumption of global meat. Now we almost doubled that. So the environment suffers from that. Another way of how we impact is through materials and waste. So once, for instance, we use a computer, this computer has to be disposed somewhere. And this is a picture that depicts what's going on in the landfills. And data say that we have 140 billion tons of minerals that have been consumed or will be consumed in the year 2050. Water scarcity is now a topic that's more relevant every day, especially with this weather that's changing and the global warming. So water is another way in which we impact the environment. And finally, energy. Energy is related to the environment because a study says that we, through using energy, we are generating more greenhouse gases that lead us to the global warming. So the less energy that we consume, the less greenhouse emissions we'll have, and therefore will be more friendly with the environment. So that's the relationship between energy efficiency and sustainability. Basically what I said, greenhouse gas emissions can be lowered by using energy more efficiently. Electrical generation plants don't need to burn extra fossil fuel to satisfy demand from energy, and therefore this is a worldwide effort, by the way. It's not just United States. There are, in Europe, Dr. McKinney mentioned that I also work for another center at Duquesne. In Europe, we have regulations in terms of energy consumption to the level of products. So some products cannot even be traded in Europe if they don't have certain minimum, they don't meet certain minimum energy efficiency levels. So, and the same applies to other countries as well. Well, so what's the value that these 4 sustainable practices regarding food, material, water, and energy brings to firms in general? Basically, increased profitability because we waste less material, less energy, less water. We prevent environmental pollution because we maximize the use of these resources. We can enhance employee productivity because there is improved comfort and healthy work environment. Protects from energy and water rising costs, etc. So there are a number of benefits that come from following these sustainable principles in each of these areas: energy, water, materials, and food. However, today we are going to focus just on energy. But before going there, when we talk about energy management, we have 3 things that we have to think. These are priorities: energy conservation. The best energy that you can have is the one that you don't waste, right? So turn off the light, that's energy conservation. Energy efficiency: if you have to use energy efficiently, okay? And finally, if you have to use energy and if you can use some source of renewable energy such as wind or solar, use it. So these are the 3 priorities: don't waste energy, use energy efficiently, and finally, if possible, use solar, wind, or another source of renewable energy. Another aspect to consider when we are talking about energy efficiency is the type of building. Each building has a different demand of services, different characteristics. So another thing that can influence on our analysis is the climate, the weather. And the literature says that these are examples of different types of climates, and basically we are here in the cold, right? So near to Chicago. Another consideration when you implement energy management is to see the extent of the retrofit. If we are going to do this existing building commissioning, a standard retrofit or deep retrofit. And I'm going to explain this in the next slides. For some of us, the term building commissioning is familiar. For some of us are not, so I wasn't sure. So I wanted to explain what is building commissioning. Basically, it's a quality assurance that everything in the building works as intended. And that comes from the shipbuilding industry, and there are more explanations about that. But basically, building commissioning is to be certain that every single equipment that we have in the building is working as intended. Now, there are some information I wanted to present you to understand from where we are getting the energy. At this point, 2012 is the latest information we have. The total consumption of energy in the United States is 95.1 quadrillion BTUs. 1/3, a little bit more than 1/3 comes from petroleum, another 1/3 from natural gas, and coal is 20%. And the rest is solar, wind, and nuclear. So I think it's important for us to understand from where we are getting our energy. In terms of use by sector, electric power is 40%. Use petroleum, gas, and other sources for electrical power generation. Transportation is next, industrial, and maybe more relevant for us, residential and commercial is 10% of that energy consumption. This is a very interesting graph. You can see that 41%, this is for the year 2030, this is changing a little bit now with the gas industry. 41% of the electrical power is generated from coal. 24%, I guess 24, come from natural gas. 21% from nuclear. 12% from solar, wind, and others. And 1% from petroleum, okay? Now, you can also see that residential and commercial buildings consume 10% of the energy, and the main source, the primary source of energy comes from natural gas. And second is petroleum. And third is solar and wind, okay? So just a reflection on from where we are getting the energy, how energy is used. Now I'm focusing on commercial buildings, and you can see this. I first put the electricity consumption, and you can see for lighting, 40%. So that's why we focus on lights. When we try to do energy efficiency measures, we focus on lights. Next is cooling, ventilation, refrigeration. Okay? But this is electricity, it's not energy as a whole. When we incorporate into the equation the energy, because you remember that in order to generate electricity, we need to burn coal or gas. Now this pie chart changed a little bit. And then we have a space heating, gas, right? Now it's the main portion of this pie. And second, lighting, and then water heating, and so on. Okay, so in terms of energy, this is how commercial buildings are using the energy. So today I try to tailor this presentation more to buildings, because buildings are the ones that consume more energy, and specifically office buildings. It's almost 20% of the energy used in commercial buildings nationwide, and therefore there are more opportunities than in other building types to save energy. When we're thinking about retrofit measures, we have three types. Existing building commissioning, just to check that everything is okay and the building is working as intended. Just by doing that, we can save up to 25% of energy consumption. The next level will be standard retrofit, in that if we change components in existing equipment, or we improve the energy efficiency of this equipment by just making some small changes, so less than $10,000 in general, we can save up to 25 to 45% of energy. And a deep retrofit is a complete change of the equipment or the building envelope or certain building characteristics. In that regard, we can save up to 45% in terms of energy efficiency. Next, we are going to talk about the energy saving plan. So we know that energy efficiency is important. We know more or less the numbers of energy consumption by buildings. So what we can do in order to save energy? Well, we are going to plan. But in order to plan, we can do first a benchmarking, so we can compare our energy consumption against other buildings, similar buildings, or against past history. Okay, so you can compare what's going to happen with this building in terms of utility bills now, before, and against what happened 10 years ago. or you can compare this building against another similar building and see how much energy this building consumes in comparison to another similar type of building. So that's one. The energy auditing, we can also make an inspection of all the energy consumption equipment that we have in a building. And there are different levels that we can do that. That's another step. After doing that, we can determine and find energy saving opportunities. Where can we save energy? And there are three levels that I have considered for this presentation, are listed there. The first two are basically no-cost or low-cost measures that we can take. And after that, after we have assessed all of these improvement opportunities, we can set a goal to say, right, we need to reduce the energy consumption of this building by 10%, 20%. And having set those goals, now we can plan how we are going to do that. And how we are going to implement this. Who is going to be responsible, what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and so on. And after we do that, we need to keep track of the utility bills and the functioning of the equipment that we just retrofitted or not. And I'm going to explain this more in detail in the next slide. So this is the energy saving plans part of the presentation. Benchmarking is a process in which we compare the energy performance of a building at a point in time, could be today, and also we compare that performance with the performance of other similar buildings. Some units that you can use to measure the building performance are listed there. Maybe the most interesting is the last one, energy use intensity, that is measured in kBTUs per square foot per year. That's a unit that's commonly used to benchmark your building, your commercial building, against others. In order to be able to benchmark your building against others, you can use the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Basically, after you enter all the information that is asked by this tool, you will get a number associated to the energy use intensity of your building. And the website, for those that are not familiar with that website, is this one. So it's a web-based tool. You just need to register and get a password and username, and you can enter your building information. And this is for commercial buildings. It's not for residential. This is for commercial. These are the type of buildings or sectors that are covered by the Energy Portfolio Manager. So you can find similar type of buildings that you can benchmark. You have a hotel, you will find information on hotels, retail stores, supermarkets. And I have listed, in the next slide, you will see a graph that shows the typical energy use intensity values at national level. So you see the supermarkets are the ones that consume, in general, more energy per year. Okay, being the worksheet facility, one of the ones that doesn't consume that much. So that's our general information. If you want specifics, you have to enter all your utility bills into this website, and they will provide the specific information, and you will receive, you will see how your buildings rank against similar buildings. After performing the benchmarking, we can proceed to do an audit. An audit has 4 elements. In general, there are 4 elements in an audit. The pre-site visit analysis. And basically, you review the drawings and construction documents, and also get information about the historical energy use. And then you follow with the next step, is a site visit. So it's a walkthrough inspection of all the equipment that consumes energy in the building. After that, you can perform a post-site visit analysis and reporting. Basically, you make a engineering and financial analysis to identify which energy efficiency measures will be suitable for that particular building. And finally, the report, in which there are a number of items that will be listed. Actually, they are shown in the slide. I will not repeat those. Now, these are the elements common to any audit, but we have different levels of audit. The first is the ASHRAE Level 1 audit. It's a very basic audit that consists in an analysis of energy use plus a brief walk through the building to survey which energy consuming equipment we have in that building. As a part of the energy use analysis, usually utility bills from the previous 2 years are reviewed, and the energy use intensity is calculated. And usually the report ends identifying no-cost and low-cost measures. The energy savings estimates are not highly accurate. So this is kind of a very brief, not that in-depth analysis in terms of identifying saving opportunities in the building, energy saving opportunities in the building. The second one is a more complex audit. In this case, there's also you have to walk and do the site visit, but you use a more thorough survey, and includes all the elements that you can find. And this, as a result, the report will include a more detailed engineering and financial analysis, account for interactions between systems, how the heating system could interact with the power generation system. And so it's a second level of depth in terms of the analysis. And finally, we have the ASHRAE. Oops, I missed the one. The ASHRAE level 3. In the ASHRAE level 3, you use computer models to simulate these interactions. I have to rectify what I said here. ASHRAE level 2 just reports some estimated energy savings and project costs, doesn't account for interactive effects. Level 3 audit accounts for interactive effects because usually the person performing the analysis use these computer models to simulate building and equipment operations. So that would allow the use of these computer models allows the auditor to account for these interactions. Okay, once we have identified all these energy saving opportunities, we can act in different forms. We can change how the tenant or the occupant behaves in terms of energy consumption. We can improve operation and maintenance practice, or we can retrofit equipment where retrofitting is the upgrade of a building's energy consuming equipment. Or we can finally modify the building envelope. And I have some examples in the next slides. Some examples of how can you change the behavior of the occupants are protecting the thermostat from unauthorized adjustment. If we have access, or everybody has access to the thermostat, unauthorized persons can change the temperature, and that can affect our energy consumption significantly. We can optimize the startup time and equipment sequencing. This is mostly for manufacturing or for buildings with a lot of heavy equipment, in which you can generate a peak demand once you start a number of motors or heavy equipment. But if you are going to start laptops and air conditioning units, small ones, it's not going to generate that peak. But anyway, a good practice is always to make this sequential, not at the same time. So that will help not only with your electrical bills, Also the wires. The wires that are carrying the electricity will not be overloaded, okay? Because it could happen that you are restarting a number of equipment and all the wires receiving this demand, and that could create some problems in the future in terms of early aging of these wires. So as a good practice, regardless if you are not going to generate this peak or not, or the size of the peak, it's a good practice to start this equipment, the use of the equipment sequentially, not all at the same time. Another way to change the behavior of the occupants is to encourage building occupants to use Energy Star equipment. That should be a must. It's easy to comply with. It's just to put into practice that every equipment that is going to be purchased by the organization must be Energy Star labeled. It means it's a more energy efficient equipment. Another way to save money, very easy, is to install this software in such a way that the monitor basically will shut down or will go to sleep if it's not being used. That could save $1 billion a year if we all do this. This is very interesting. I never thought about this. And for cleaning operations in a building, we can plan to janitors to go to the building as a team, floor by floor. So you just turn on the lights in the floor that's being cleaned. You don't have to have all the lights of the building on. We can also install motion sensors, so nobody will forget to turn off the lights when they leave a room. And also, why not having the janitors cleaning during the day? We can save some electrical power from there. Another way to save money is to basically turn off equipment that's not being in use. Okay. In terms of improving operational and maintenance practices, we have some examples, and this is interesting. Just changing the air filters regularly, using programmable thermostats. They cost $35, but they can save you a lot of money. And having the heating and cooling equipment maintained annually could produce significant savings. So these are just some examples. Most of you are aware of those, so I don't want to spend too much time on this right now. These are other quick win, what's called, these are retrofit options that produce an immediate result. And basically it's trying to separate cool environments from not cool environments, and replace fans with high volume, low velocity equipment. So these are small changes, but they can produce significant savings. In terms of lights, you can basically, in some buildings there are too much light. So you can basically make an analysis how much light you need, and you can withdraw some light from certain offices or hallways, and that alone will save you money. Also, you can install occupancy sensors. We mentioned that during the janitors example. And install LED exit signs. Anything that's LED is going to save you money. By the way, LED light is the future. It's not the present. LED light savings are expected to be in the order of trillions of dollars. LED lights is the most efficient light that you can have. What happens is that the cost is high. Okay, so it's not, you don't have to change everything to LED right now because the price of LED lights is expected to come down. Okay, but in the future, our future will be all about LED lights. Also, if you are using fluorescent lights, there are more efficient fluorescent lights. These are the T8 fluorescent lights. So you have to change from T12 to T8. And also, the incandescent bulb is going to be part of the history. I think most of you agree. Actually, I think in Europe it's banned at this time. So because incandescent light, for those that don't know, 90% of the power, electricity, goes into heat. 10% goes into light. So it's the most inefficient way to produce light, but was the best way that we have in the past. But now we have alternatives. And one of these alternatives is the compact fluorescent lights that save energy, and the high impact discharge lamps that also are more efficient. And each type of light has a particular application, has certain advantages and disadvantages. And to be honest, I wish I could explain more about this, but so there are so many points that we have to discuss today. I just wanted to present this to you, have an idea. There are more efficient lights rather than the incandescent lamp, and that the LED is the future for us. In terms of HVAC equipment, if we are talking now a very deep retrofit measure, now we are talking about $10,000 or more of investment. We can change the entire system. We can change the chiller plants for those buildings that have a chiller plant. We can refurbish boilers. So it's very complex equipment that we need to replace, and it's not cheap, I can tell you that. So this is the last, sometimes the first, but mostly for us, it's the last thing that we are going to do unless it is really, really necessary, because you really need a very heavy capital investment in that. And usually the return of investment is not 7 years, it could be more than 7 years. For the others that I listed before, usually it's something between 3 to 7 years, up to 11. But for these specific deep energy saving measures, you have to expect that the payback period goes beyond 7 years. In terms of lights, you can also replace lights, redesign the lighting system. You can upgrade exterior lighting. So basically, there are many things that you can do in terms of moving around the lighting fixtures. In terms of building envelope, you can install high efficiency windows, insulated reflective barriers, and you can install vegetation on the top of the roof as a way to increase reflectivity, and therefore it will provide less warmer environments. It's kind of insulation that you can use with this vegetation on the roof. So once you have identified these energy saving opportunities, now you need to set goals. And the goals could be just 10% reduction or 20 or 30% reduction on the energy consumption. Could be a specific amount of BTUs. I listed 300 million BTUs, could be less or more, it's up to you. Another way to set goals is to determine that your building will be best in class. So you compare your building against others, you want your building to be best in class. Should overperform other buildings, other similar buildings. Or you can set threshold goals that are the minimum acceptable goals in terms of energy consumption that you set for your building, or stretch goals that goes beyond the minimum and that can incentivize people to take more extreme energy efficiency measures. Once you have set the goals, the next step is to plan and implement. You need to define specific steps and targets, determine the roles, who, resources, which resources we are going to use, and determine which ones are going to be done first. And also communication is important. You need to raise awareness of what you are doing, otherwise this project will fail, because for energy efficiency to be successful, we have seen that there are some behavior from the occupants that determine certain saving opportunities. If they don't buy it, all your efforts could not reach the target goals. So you need to communicate what you're doing, you need to raise awareness, you need to motivate, and finally you need to track and monitor how efficient these measures are being. And this is important because the feedback that you receive from this monitoring and tracking will help you to maintain the levels of energy efficiency that you have achieved. And we'll finalize this presentation with a brief section on market and financial incentives for sustainability that includes energy. Why we should do this? Why do we should focus on energy efficiency? And the response is that basically the businesses consider this is important. Around 60% of the businesses that respond to the survey from the Bureau of Labor Statistics reply that they use technologies to improve energy efficiency. They use technologies of practices to reduce waste, and they have at least one employee that's working half of the time improving energy efficiency in their establishment. So businesses definitely are paying attention to energy efficiency.